Hey guys, welcome back. Welcome to another week's playlist. Let's get started. Right. So, as usual, let's consider the indexes. This is the bear version that we've honestly been watching for a while. So far, so good. Again, last week, regardless of whether you were a bull or bear, I said that, we would, if this area at 4,400 was broken, we'd come straight and retest this 4,270 approximately, right? That's kind of what happened. And both bull and bear case, I mentioned that this 4,270 test was likely, and that's why last week played out pretty well, right? So now we are at a critical point, right? We're at a point where the market kind of has to tell us, right? Are you going to be bearish or are you going to trap the bears, right? And be short-term bullish before trapping the bulls and extending the leg down. So same bull and bear versions remain the same. I'm just honestly, you can see that right now this trend line has been acting as support, right? So it should be no surprise that we are bouncing off of a demand area and we are bouncing off of the bottom trend line. So this bounce totally expected, right? So what honestly would differentiate between a bull and bear version, right? On the bounce for the short-term bull version, I'd say confirmation would be, right, wait for it to break this high at 4,388. If it breaks this high at 4,388, I think it's a decent trade to the upside. The first level I'd consider is 4,500. If we break 4,500, then I can definitely see 4,700 in the picture, right? This trend line break is, what the bulls need to, use this momentum, use this as a higher low to catapult to the upside, right? Again, my stance, right? I'm always going to favor the bears, but this week I am honestly on a neutral side. I could definitely see both happening. Sentiment honestly is really, really bearish, right? That's one reason why I think this trap could be set, and then another trap trap the bulls could be set before coming to the downside. So that's the reason I'm very neutral this week. I plan on, getting out of all my shorts at open and then seeing what's next. Like I want to give the market a day or two to either, right, if we break the support, then this chart that I've been showing you for weeks now will come to fruition. Like so far so good, but this is the major break that we need, right? This was the area we consolidated, we broke out, right? But we couldn't get over this resistance, that acted as previous support. It turned into new resistance. Again, we came back, we couldn't consolidate, right? Use previous resistance, we couldn't make a new support. Well, we tried, right? But you could see we made a rising wedge and then we sold off. An equal legs target, it fulfilled it. So again, very neutral. Right now, no clues, right? The market could swing either side. I'm personally, again, this bounce is expected. I'm personally watching like 431, right? If 431 breaks, I would be bullish to 438. If 438 breaks, then I would be bullish to 4,500. If 4,500 breaks, I'd be bullish to 470. So those are kind of my levels right now, right? I honestly plan on doing it level by level. This, again, as I mentioned, the most important level. If this level breaks in the market, then we're going to sell off very, very fast. Like 4,000 will come really quickly. So keep your eye, right? This is the most important level. Again, we are very oversold, so a bounce is expected. Again, when we bounce, if we break this smaller trend line, right? Okay, let me draw it in this bull version so it's easier to see. If we break this smaller trend line, right? Hold on, I want to draw this properly. Okay, let me put it this way. If we break the smaller trend line for 34, 3, 2, 1, then it has room to, I'd say, 437.9, 4380, right? Pretty much like this. This is what it would look like. Like we go test it. We obviously reject the first time. Then we break it. We test the second trend line. We reject it. Then we test the upper level. Reject, upper level, reject. That's kind of how the bull version is kind of going to go, right? This is kind of what it would look like. So again, as I mentioned, most important level, 4267-ish, right? If that breaks, flush, we're going to have a massive flush. If that doesn't break, right, again, we could just bounce and stay sideways, right, for a few days. Again, we could establish a range here, right? We could go sideways like this before we move to the downside. Completely possible, right? Because we had a massive range move over the weekend. So that's completely possible, not out of the picture at all, right? Or as I mentioned, if this is a wave C, then we start to break these trend lines and then we move to the upside. So those are honestly the three cases. We chop before lower, we break the support, we flush, or we start breaking these trend lines and move to the upside. So that's kind of my take on the market, which is kind of why for Tesla, right? Again, Tesla, we've been trading it for the past 3 weeks, right? Pretty simple, right? Short every pump. So far has worked, and we gapped out to 830, right? The bear version remains the same, right? As I've mentioned over the weeks. If I told you the reason we took a short trade, lower highs, lower highs, lower highs, we flushed. Again, we used the bottom of the trend line to bounce to the top of the trend line, took another short trade, we flushed, right? Again, here we are again, right? Tesla is going to do one of two things. That is the first play. Let me show you, right? I said Tesla pulled below 794, target 675, and there is an alternate bull case. Again, the bear case is obvious. I've shown this to you for weeks, so I'm not going to go through it, but I want to show you the bull case, right? Let's look at Tesla. Tesla bull case remains the same as the market, right? If the market is going to go play out the ABC scenario I showed you, Tesla needs to hold this pre-market low at 820. As long as the low holds, Tesla definitely has room to like 1050, right? That's honestly a nice 200-point bounce. So I would not rule it out. Like this 0.236 fib is where the B wave generally retraces to, right? So it does satisfy the requirements for Tesla to be able to, push to 1,000 and 1,050. So this is not impossible, right? If the market, like I mentioned, has a massive bull wave, you see shorts getting squeezed, then this is definitely possible. Keep an eye on Tesla. Both bull and bear cases, Tesla has a lot of room to the downside and upside. So that's why I thought it was a good play, to put in this week. Let's look at GDX, right? GDX is, I've been bullish on gold and silver, right? We've been covering it for 3 weeks. Now everyone, kind of wants to get on the bandwagon, right? But that doesn't mean they're late, right? So let's go through GDX, right? For me, I personally think this is a wave 4, right? The way we consolidated it for almost 30th July to like 1.6 months, like 1.5 years, right? Consolidated for 1.5 years. And now we're trying to break out to the upside, which you can see we actually broke this trend line that's been holding down as resistance. So I have GDX calls over 40. The reason for that, I wanted to, break the over 35. I wanted to break this previous high, right? If it does, then I can confirm an ABC or 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, takes it to the upside. So whether you're a bull or bear, right? GDX, if it breaks 35, easily goes to 40. So I think in both bull and bear case scenarios, GDX is bullish. So that's the reason, I have calls over 35, target 40. So that's kind of my thesis on it. Again, the next one is MO, tobacco stocks, right? They seem to be breaking out across the market, and MO didn't make a new high, right? So I think this retracement, right? Whatever retraces, right? The next big volume shelf is above 50. So if MO gets there, I think it's a good dip to buy because you can see it's also in this channel, right? Every time it hits the bottom of this channel, it does tend to test the top of the channel. And the 1.618 fib is a 56. And that kind of coincides with the channel. So that's the reason I think MO, again, another good, play for calls, right? And it's completely against the market, but tobacco has been doing well despite the broader market. So that's the reason I have calls over 52, right? 52 just means that when the dip gets bought, right, when it breaks the high, it has room to 56. So you can either buy the dip or wait for it to break 52. So it's kind of my thesis on MO. The next one I have is ABBV. So I have ABBV puts. The reason for that is I've been tracking this for a while now. And I think I can definitely count, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 waves to the upside. So at minimum, I would expect it to come to, 128. And it did gap down and it is very overbought, right? Let's go in and let's look at the RSI. And you can see on the 4-hour chart, right? Not only is it on the daily, it's probably overbought, right? You can see it's an overbought territory. So on the 4-hour, what I want to show you is not only is it overbought, there's also bearish divergence. What is bearish divergence? When price makes a new high, but your RSI or your MACD makes a new low. That divergence in price and indicator is called bearish divergence, and it tends to play out over time. So it's another reason I have there, right? We have bearish divergence on the chart. So that's the reason I have ABBV puts below 143.18. Again, targets 138, 133. And that's kind of my take on ABBV. The next one, again, DDOC. We had DDOC last week, played out really well. Again, if it is a C wave, right? If my wave count is true, then DDOC, again, you saw that it also broke back into this channel, try to break out, try to consolidate, again, tried again, rejected this volume shelf, right? Major supply zone, and then we started selling off. So if I am right, and this is a C wave, right? DDOC certainly has a lot more to sell off, right? So that's why I have, if it breaks this pre-market low at 140, 154.48, next level is at 144 if that breaks 136 and lower. So ultimately, I do have it coming back to the bottom of this channel at 100, right? But these are just my intermediate targets. So that's what I have for DDOC. The next one is COP. Again, you know, oil and gas, really bullish, right? So that's why I do think COP has room to 99, the psychological 100 number as well. So if it can, you know, I had over 92 and it seems to have gapped up over that. So a test of this previous resistance at 92 to a move to 99 is certainly possible. So that's the reason I have COP calls on here, right? Let's look at snow. Again, we had this last week and it played out really nicely. We'll go through last week's plays and see how we did. But again, be mindful that this gap here, right, certainly can easily get filled before it goes lower. So if you're trying to short snow, you can trade a trade at, you know, when it fills this gap at 271, keep your stop loss around 275, right? And then you can play the downside out. I do think, right, you can see this is a channel. I have snow in, so I do think it will come test the bottom of this channel. So my target is below, what did I say? Below 259. Okay, that's not right. Why did I say 259? My bad, guys. I should change this to 260. How much is this? Yeah, 265. Sorry, my bad. Below 265, right? I can see snow selling off, right? First target, 259 is the pivot here. Okay, so that's kind of the reason I had 259 because I wanted it to break. You can see this was used as resistance. It was also used as support. So in case it bounces here, yeah, that's why I had 259, right? So if you're watching this video, 265 is good, but keep in mind 259 can create a bounce, right? Make sure it's not too much of a bullish bounce, right? Then it could just bounce off this and move higher. But if it breaks to 59, then we have 239. So it's kind of my reasoning behind snow. Same thing. I have it in the wave C, same as DDOC. So they both should continue selling off once the gap is filled, right? The last one is SLV. Again, we've had this, right? We've been bullish since 20. So far, so good. So for me, right, if we break this high at 22, obviously it has a gap to fill at 22.35, right? But I'm hoping if that gap fills and we move higher, right? My targets are 23.5, 25. You can see I have it on a wave 5, same as GDX. So again, whether you're a bull or bear, right? I still think an ABC still takes it to at least 25 as well. Whether you're a gold bull, silver bull, metals bull, an ABC count, which is bearish, right? It's just a counter trend bounce, is still bullish. So that's the reason I'm really bullish on metals and miners. Both bull and bear counts take them higher. So this is my take on it, right? I just briefly want to go through some of the bigger charts, right? Bigger picture, Amazon, bigger picture. We're, you know, if you've been attending Zoom classes that I have where every day we go over these charts, right? And I do some of the chart quiz, we've been discussing Amazon, and I've mentioned that this was the bull flag Amazon broke out from. We busted down again on earnings. We went to retest it, failed. Again, it had this minor channel. We came down, we retested the channel. Again, we failed, and today we've gapped down, right? You can see on the 4-hour chart that we gapped exactly into this lower trend line that's acting as support. So don't be surprised if we bounce, right, to fill this gap. But bigger picture, I still think this is a wave C, and it's going to move lower, right? So I'd wait for this trend line to break. If this low at 2965 breaks, then, you know, this chart becomes valid. But again, keep in mind the same bull and bear scenario I kind of showed you for a ABC, right? Security on the market can play out on Amazon as well. So if it can break 3137, right, break out of this channel, then I'll be bullish for that C wave. So I just wanted to go over some of the FANG stocks. I want to indicate why, I do remain bearish because, again, same as Amazon, Google broke out of a 1 year channel, guys. Like not 1 year, 2 year channel, right? It broke down, retested that channel, right? Earnings pump. When it retest that channel, again, the way it's been selling off, very typical of a wave C, right? So that's kind of why I'm leaning towards a bearish index because all the heavyweights like Apple, Google, Microsoft are all really bearish, right? Apple, bigger picture. Again, I think it's right. So far, this has been my count. This is a wave B. It's gap down, right? Again, probably fills this gap, but Apple has been holding up relatively well compared to the rest of the indexes. And I will change my count accordingly. But for now, if I am bearish, I'm just going to leave this bear count on there. Same for Microsoft, right? Finished its wave B, same as the index. We sold off, and now we're dumping to the downside. So same thing, right? All the major stocks are kind of showing me the same thing. I think Tesla's the only one that hasn't. I know it's down like what 15, 20% or 30% from the top, but that's not enough, right? It's up almost like 2,000, 3,000% from like the lows. So I do think Tesla has a lot more room to the downside. So keep your eye on Tesla, right? The index for major clues on the market to kind of see how we progress. As I mentioned, don't forget the bull and bear counts at this point. I am neutral. I do think they're both equally likely just because sentiment, if Twitter and if a lot of the market was not this bearish, right? If sentiment wasn't this bearish, then I definitely lean towards my bear accounts. But when everyone is expecting that, like I'm kind of hesitant. It's not like it will happen. I'm just a little hesitant in case a face stripping short covering takes place before we actually sell off. So keep in mind both the bull and bear accounts, right? With that said, let's kind of see, right, how we did last week. Again, in our Discord, we have contributors. We have plays every day. I personally post some plays too, right? So, and I posted this play right on Friday where I said that I'm watching this wedge to break. If we break this wedge, we're gonna have an intense sell-off, right? It's kind of, let's go see what actually happened because I haven't, gone back to revisit my chart. US top one. I'm not even sure if I erased it. I keep redoing my charts. Oh yeah, this is the wedge. See what happened? Although I did what was my target? 13,798. Where are we? Below that. Not bad. Although I did expect 13,798. One thing to keep in mind. I just noticed this. Very important. Tech actually broke its lows here, and the ES hasn't. So that bull and bear count that I was telling you about, this is gonna be interesting because generally B goes to 0.236, but again, B's can be an expanded flat, right? In the case of an expanded flat, right, where would the market go? Where's the 1.23 fib? It has room all the way to 13,400, right, before the market can bounce. So that proposal of an ABC to the upside is certainly possible, right? It's still valid, but it's a lot more dubious. I'm so glad I checked this chart. I just wanted to mention that. All right, let's go through some of the plays from last week, kind of see how we did. So I had DDOG puts below 165. We already went through DDOG. We know how that worked, right? It made a really nice move. It bounced, right, at the beginning of the week to give entries. And as soon as it broke 165, it dumped. So that was a nice 10% move to the downside. That worked well. Gold crawls over 174. Gold is a really slow mover, but you can see the minute it gapped over 174, had a nice 2% move to the upside. I mean, that's not a lot, right? 2% is not a lot, but for a boomer like gold, that's almost like, let's say, a 6% move on a stock like Snap. So I still take that as a win. I think that went well. Tesla, again, I know it broke 856 really late in the week, right? So again, I'm not going to take this as a victory, but if you guys, were able to capitalize where I mentioned that if you saw this, if you saw the bottom trend line and you knew that if it bounces, it's going to bounce to the top and shorted here, like it was a good move to the downside, but not really a victory, right? I'm just going to say pending to be continued on Tesla. But again, keep the bull version in mind. How do we do on Blink? What do we have for Blink, guys? Below 23.50. It didn't even break 23.5. It just went sideways. So again, it didn't really work. I'm sorry about that. Let's look at Novavax. I know Novavax on Monday worked really well because I was watching it right below 87, right? We dumped all the way to 78, which was, what were my targets? 80, 70. Yeah, we didn't hit 70, but we hit the first target. It's still in play, right? Bigger picture, Novavax chart is working. Just wanted to show you that this wave 5 to the downside, my targets are still like, even though I have 80 and 70 here, my targets are much lower, like 60, 50. I still think it's going to continue to sell off. So Novavax still a short, still a good play. Tilray calls. I was just looking for a really short-term bounce on Tilray, and it never broke 7.4. Actually, it tried to break over for 1 second and then came back down. So yeah, Tilray didn't play out, right? Rejected the trigger, but bigger picture, as I mentioned, I still have Tilray going to 5 and lower. I can certainly see 4.5 and 4. So be careful trying to, long marijuana stocks right now. Snow, we went over it, break below 288. If it breaks, we're going to have an intense sell-off. What happened? We had like a 9% move, 10% move. I made 250% on those puts, right? So that was a really good play. And the reason for that, I took this trade when we broke this bull flag, right? That's where I took it when we broke this volume shelf. So I got the big move to the downside. Again, keep in mind, if it's a C wave, any bounce is a good short on Snow. So that's the reason. Back on this week's watch list. Snap below 39, targets 36, 40. It took almost 4 days to break 39. I feel your pain, right? I was just watching Snap and I was like, where is it getting its strength from? Like, it's not even strength. I just feel like there's just no interest in Snap, but it did manage to break it. And we did, end up hitting 37, 36. Again, my targets remain the same. I'm still in Snap. I still wanted to hit 30. I still wanted to fill this gap. I still think that Snap is going to go make a new low. So this play is still valid on Snap, right? So we did do pretty well last week, but I think this week has a lot more opportunity with the volatility present. So please trade safe. That's just my view on the market. I hope you have a great day.